True, it really tamed me down. I'm like a very aggressive person, both physically and intellectually. Ooh.
What were you doing on Facebook? What was your main hobby in life?
I'm getting into fights
With strangers?
and Facebook cancels my profile because I violated community guidelines because
I shit on white people.
I get into fights because some people are just kind of stupid, but also I was very aggressive back then. I don't know how to properly vocalize my words and use that to kind of educate people.
Just invade the comment section, get very, very upset, talk to strangers about things that don't necessarily affect them. Like, spend a lot of energy on that.
That's true. But then, cause like I didn't have friends who are, I guess, like this has the same enthusiasm as me in terms of politics. So then of course I look online, talk about that instead. And so that was
Then you found me.
okay. Yes, I did.
It's true.
Some of our subjects still kind of like intersects.
There's a Venn diagram.
Yeah.
And
So
I think it's mostly because my personal interests, like
Mhm.
I make communications fit my own interests. So like
Mhm.
I talked with sex work, I did a whole project about how sex workers use social media to either find clients, talk to each other,
Mhm.
develop a business. My teacher like gave me a bad grade because he was like,
That's not really about communication, it's more sociology.
I'm like,
But you need communication even in sociology.
Yeah.
Just like how you kind of, in a sense, improve the way I communicate with people because you're just like, you're not using the right word to like hook them up. I'm just generally bad at.
listening. She's developing her active listening and she's doing really good.
I generally, what is it?
Take over conversations.
Yes, I dominate conversations a lot, and I'm really learning all of that because not everything is about me.
When we first started dating, I actually had to like stop her and being like, you're talking about stuff you know nothing about, so let me teach you a little bit.
Ouch. But that is true. It really tamed me down. I'm like a very aggressive person, both physically and intellectually. Ooh. Okay. Next question is.
How would you say that we influence each other when it comes to our political perspectives? We radicalized each other, I think, in our own little bubble. That we're our own echo chamber.
Mm.
One thing's for sure, I think you've opened my mind about like thinking in a more global way, especially like about the Philippines. I realized I didn't know much about the Philippines. I knew one person who was Filipino and he didn't speak Tagalog at all. I come from also a linguistics background, so looking at like the Wikipedia page for like the family of languages that are in the Austronesian and Malaysian area, and being like, wow, so many languages.
Remember when you were telling me like, oh, are you going to be speaking Tagalog in the future, or like oh, in the future would you still be teaching your children to speak Tagalog? And I said, no, because why should I? Like, I'm in Canada, I should be. They're going to for sure speak French and English, but like Tagalog, it's not important, it's not needed. So my initial reaction was
Just like, no? Why? Why?
You didn't put Tagalog on your CV.
I did not. I'm the first person to call myself out with that one, and that's all because of
Internalized self-hatred,
voila,
inferiority complex,
complex. Because a lot of Filipinos, maybe I think it's more of like self-hating. One thing that you influenced me though is to really get back into my roots. I mean, you're Quebecois, you're French Canadian, so of course you're kind of more rooted to your culture. Is that fair to say?
I would say so, but at the same time, like there's a lot I don't know about my own culture. I think I'm very Americanized and quite the Anglo. Now.
Quite.
Quite.
There's a Q and W white in it, you know.
That's true.
you did kind of open my eyes about my own privilege, because I'm in my head, I'm like, I'm already a POC, I'm already a racialized person, I'm just like, I'm already at a disadvantage. But you're just like, ha ha, but you had made, you traveled.
When she first told me she had a maid in the Philippines, I was like, what the fuck? And now we watch videos in the
Pre-Cello!
Pre-Cello. Like, really, I really recommend it, because it's eye-opening for me to see what a house in the Philippines looks like.
Me too.
Especially when it's like middle class and upper middle class.
Mm.
And there is always a maid's quarters, or
Oh, yeah.
even sometimes a driver's quarters.
That's true.
And like when your house is literally 4 stories tall with like I don't know how many square meters, and your maid has 2 square meters or like barely that, doesn't have a bath or a shower, just like a, what is it called, a wet bathroom?
Yeah, but that's the bathroom in general in the Philippines is kind of typical like that.
Yeah, but like I remember when she told me the word mata pobre, I was like, huh, I'm glad there's a word for that, because I don't think, is there a word like that in English or even in French?
I don't know in English, I don't know in French.
It's not exactly elitism, and it's not exactly classism either, or even condescending. Like, it's really the perfect mix between being rich and looking down on poor people, like from a position of privilege.
Yeah.
But also, even more than that, like it's a cultural element.
Till now, I'm still unlearning a lot of things. The the geopolitics in the Philippines, it makes me think that like if I was there, I would be perfectly cushioned in like I guess like middle class, and so I would probably be still looking down on farmers,
You would be
protesting, and
one of those people who are more maybe out of touch and
Yes.
realize that your own privilege maybe.
And that's because of course I grew up in a family where like they work so hard. Of course there's going to cause some sort of resentment, like I did everything so that you should be doing it too. But intersectionality, I don't know why no one's really aware of that for the moment, but it's a lot of web
it's
of
becoming more mainstream
Yeah.
to talk about intersectionality.
So yes, I am a POC and I'm a racialized person, especially in North America society. I'm still going to be oppressed, but I am stuck in a limbo. Just like that article that I read, this student from McGill who's double majoring in in political science and something, and she was talking about how like back at home, I think in Cameroon or something, she's just like, yeah, well, someone drives me here and to and fro type of thing, and then here you're just another black girl, right, who could be murdered by SPVM because
think
whatever reason, right?
Something a lot of Canadians, especially like from a French Canadian background, something that we might not understand about immigration is that a lot of people, especially from the Philippines, who manage to immigrate here, they do so because they had some sort of financial help. Like it doesn't cost nothing to immigrate, and it's actually quite pricey. Like to immigrate to a country like Canada or the US.
Due to the currency from pesos to Canadian dollar, it does take a lot of money to come in here, and most people go in debt and they have to pay back their debt in here
Like,
and in the
your mom
Philippines.
made a conscious choice to immigrate, and you can say that she's a economic migrant.
Yeah.
Again, because we came for economic opportunities, aka jobs, we're mostly called economic migrants, and we're not deemed refugees or something else because we are coming from a democratic country, meaning that there should not be any sort of turmoil in our country because everyone is democratically elected, quote
But at
unquote,
the
even
same
though
time,
that's not
she
true.
was independent. She didn't have to rely on family to sponsor her, or which I think is the case for a lot of people. who
Yeah, I
immigrate.
was pretty surprised for that one, and I guess part of the reason why I get so much hate and how like I'm mayabang, in a sense I'm boastful, because like my mom really do take pride, my family do take pride on the fact that we came in here on our own accord, right?
Fully
And
independent.
And like for the longest time, I feel like I was kind of shamed for that one, and I just didn't know. And
Maybe
my
you were defensive.
I was very for sure I was defensive, right? Because like first of all, I didn't do anything. So I guess this is where like white people will be like, "Whoa, I didn't do anything. My parents were not slave owners." But like,
It's the same thing with like recognizing any kind of privilege.
True.
You might feel very defensive at first because you don't understand necessarily like, well, it didn't make my life easier. My life was still very difficult, and it's true. Because intersectionality.
and it didn't help the fact that, let's say, the Filipino community in here, because of all of those colonial mentality, crab mentality, toxic Filipino traits, it didn't help the fact that my family kind of like detach ourselves to the Filipino community, especially here in Montreal. It's a very dense, like, you know exactly where the Filipino community is because you get out of metro and everyone's just like, kamusta? Ano gusto mo? Kumain ka na? Like, it's right there. Like, you can't just say like, oh, I don't know where the Filipino community is. You know, even if you're Filipino and you, like, even those half Filipinos, like, they know where to find Filipino people, right? So, I detached myself from that one because I could not find my own peers,
Right.
if that's a thing.
I think some of it is also because a little before you met me, you had realized that you were queer. So it's
True.
like,
Bruh.
So I'm cutting here again because, like I said, this should have been a podcast, but I don't know. We just planned it out of the blue, and we've been talking for a while. This is like an hour worth of filming, and we weren't really prepared at all. It was just a very freestyle way of talking. So at this point, this is just me making it all fast. How do you say that? I forgot. Anyway, and I was just talking about my first impressions of Canada and my culture shock, and I did talk about people sunbathing, which was quite weird for my experience, and the mountain of snows. Until now, everyone knows that I always not freak out, but I'm always happy about mountain of snows. But anyway, sorry, but I can decorticate it for you guys when I have time. For now, I don't, so bye. Fucking shit. Okay, I'll stop. I was with my mom and we were waiting to cross the street, and there was a lady who was smoking beside me, and then she just like smoked and then looked at me and literally just like touched me like that, right? I'm like, oh my god, look at this.
touch anyone. That should be a rule. No, let's criminalize small talk, and you don't touch anyone unless they tell you.